All right, can everyone hear me? Are you ready to get started? Excellent. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the City of Loveland's Hybrid Redistricting Town Hall. I'm Nicole Yost with the Office of Communication and Engagement, and I will be your moderator today. We have both in-person attendees as well as attendees joining us through Zoom, so welcome, everyone. Before we get to our agenda, some housekeeping items and our presentation, I would like to quickly thank and introduce some of the Loveland City staff members who are joining us today. Here in the room is our main presenter, City Clerk Dylan Coldiron, who you'll hear from soon. We also have GIS Manager Brent Spiegel, facilitators from the Loveland Public Library, Director Amy Phillips, Daniel Tate, and Monique Ramos, who will be helping us with map feedback. Media specialists Jeff Koska and Clara Schultz, managing technology. And then our online group and our online feedback session will be led by CIO Dan Coldiron, Deputy City Clerk Chad Thomas, Assistant City Clerk Adriana Hernandez, and Sterling Wilson are also supporting the online town hall today. So our goals for today is really, I'm going to turn it over to Dylan here shortly to do a presentation on redistricting, and that will include why redistricting is needed, parameters that we must meet when establishing new ward boundaries, 4 potential options to consider, and pros and cons of each option. After that, we will go into breakout sessions. We have our in-person session. We'll fill the group in here on how that will go. And then we have a facilitated feedback session through Zoom. Now, before we jump in, every town hall that we do has some ground rules. So first, we respect each other's opinions. We are here to talk about redistricting. Our goal is to get feedback that is going to be necessary for us to effectively move forward. So we do expect the conversation to be respectful, courteous, and appropriate. Second, please remain quiet during the presentation. No outbursts. Please hold off on asking questions or raising your hand until after the presentation. It's very important for our attendees to hear the details of the presentation in order to make informed feedback decisions. And then finally, engage. We welcome your feedback in this effort, and we really value the opportunity for you to contribute in meaningful ways. And with that, I will turn it over to Dylan Coldiron.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I appreciate that. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. Look forward to sharing this information with you tonight. I wanted to mention one other person that we have in person, and that is Lindsay Van Wyck. She is also an assistant city clerk with the clerk's office, helping us with the in-person items tonight. So thanks for being here, Lindsay. Okay, so let's get started. We are going to go over the purpose and objective of this redistricting effort, talk a little bit about why we need to do it, the necessary outcomes. I'll give you some background about related efforts and talk about some potential options, which there are 4. And then we'll get to the main objective, and that's really to get feedback from you. So we want to hear from you, and we encourage you to get back to us on that. So these are some of the questions that we're going to be asking you tonight. Mainly, do you have a preferred option? So again, we're going to be showing you 4 options, and this just provides you with a little bit of information on the differences between them, but we'll talk about it in detail. And then, do you have another option that you would like to submit and provide? So we are open to anything that works, and would love to hear from you in that regard. So the purpose of redistricting is really to amend the city's ward boundaries and the precinct boundaries. So that's why we're here. The objective is to ensure compliance with constitutional apportionment requirements using recent census and building permit data and compliance with Loveland City Charter. So why do we have to do that? Our current wards are out of alignment with constitutional requirements. So that is that there can be no more than a 5% difference between the population numbers in the highest level ward and the lowest level ward. So there can't be a difference of more than 5%. Right now, we are at an 8.5% difference. So we have to redistrict. Precinct boundaries also don't match the county. And so we need that to happen because we need that to be able to coordinate our elections with the county. We're required to provide data on registered voters per ward. We can't do that unless we're aligned with the county. And we're required to provide other election data per ward. And right now we can't do that because we're out of alignment with the county precincts. So just a little bit of information on previous efforts. You can see wards were established back in the 1960s. And then we've done some ward and boundary precinct adjustments all along. The most recent ones were just precinct adjustments, which were done in 2015 and 2017. 2012 was the last time we actually did ward boundary adjustments as well. So necessary outcomes, we need wards that are as equal in population as required. We want conformance with state, county, and city requirements. We need the ability, again, to coordinate with the county on elections, hopefully November 2023 being the first one. And then we need acceptance of the new alignment with City Council and with you, the residents. So that's why we're here to talk about. A little bit more information about that. So people do ask me sometimes, what happens if we don't coordinate with the county? Why is that important? It's important because we would have to duplicate those efforts, right? We would have to put on our own elections. So it would cost the city, it would be very expensive to do that. And because we hold our elections in November, like the county does, we actually would be competing with like vendors to try to even pull off an election. So it is really good, really important that we're able to do that. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So as far as a little history, states started their redistricting efforts back in 2018 when they formed some independent redistricting commissions to draw the new congressional lines. So this work continued through 2021, and it included the census data that was just done. In November of 2021, the redistricting maps that they came up with were approved by the Supreme Court. And so that kind of starts the ball rolling for other entities to be able to do their redistricting work. So the county started in September of 2021, and they had, at that point, the final official data was released from the census. In December of 2021, the county established precincts according to the state statutes and using the work that the state had done. And then in January and February of 2022, their new precincts that they did were approved by the commissioners and provided to the Secretary of State. And the boundaries were finalized and then given to us in February. So that brings us here. The city now needs to do our part to equalize the population and align with the changes that were made by the county. The city precincts and wards must align with the county precinct boundaries for the reasons we've talked about. And they have to be made up of undivided precincts. So that's one thing that we'll talk about as we're going through. It's an important part of why there's so few options that we can come up with at this point. But again, we're anxious to hear if you have any other options that might work. So here's a little bit about the redistricting timeline for the city getting ready for the November 2023 election. Again, I'm sorry, I'm just looking here. I didn't want to repeat a lot of the information that I just shared. So we got started with our work right after the county told us that they were done with us. So in February is when we heard about that. So we were getting started with our analysis. We were looking at the census data, and then we got a recall petition that came into the city in April. So at that time, we decided to put a halt to our redistricting efforts, because what we didn't want to do is have changes in the middle of a recall effort. So that was given to us in April. What that could have done is people who signed the recall petition, if we changed the wards in between time, when it came time to do an election, a special election, there would have been people that wouldn't have been able to vote, right? Because this was a specific ward recall. So we opted at that point, for transparency's sake and just for fairness sake, not to do that and put a halt on our redistricting efforts. So that came to us in April. The deadline was July for them to get that back to us. There were not enough signatures on it at the time, so that killed the recall effort at that time. And then we picked our efforts up again in August and September. So we did a couple of options that went to council in October, I'm sorry. And we got some feedback from them, developed a couple more options that you're going to see tonight. And then we are in the middle of public outreach right now. So December and January, we're going to be doing that. And then we'll be headed back to council in February and March. So what does the city charter say about this? It says that the city shall be divided into 4 wards. It tells us that boundaries can change no more than once in every 6 years unless we're having trouble meeting that constitutional apportionment number. And that the change cannot create a vacancy for council members. So that's really important. So when we're drawing up the various options that you're going to see tonight, we cannot kick a council member out of their ward. So some of the boundaries are dependent on where those councilors are located. Some of the county considerations were that no precinct is part of more than one state representative, senatorial, or congressional district. They used active registered voters as when they were doing their numbers versus population. The city of Loveland uses population to come up with our constitutional apportionment requirements. So that is one difference, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So they ensured that no more than 2,000 active registered voters existed in each precinct. And so that allowed them to make much bigger precincts. And so that's what's causing some of the challenge for us to do this redistricting effort. So the county went from 212 precincts down to 170. So we actually lost 42 precincts as part of that move. Not all of those in Loveland, that was countywide, but we lost a lot nonetheless. The county, I just will make the note that they didn't redraw their commissioner districts at this point, so they're going to do that sometime this year. So they have not done that part of it. So precinct challenges aside, or the precinct size is a challenge, right? So where we used to be able to make smaller changes, like down in the green and orange area, really tiny changes, we literally are looking more like the blue and white. So they moved that drastically. So this is just an example of what one of the precincts looks like, and I'm going to blow it up here for you. That is the size of one precinct with the county moving their things. So it makes it very challenging. This is like the top block right there. So when we're doing ours and we're matching their precinct boundaries, we can't split that in half. We have to stay tied to those same precinct boundaries. All right, and this gives you an idea of the population numbers that are within each of those districts. So when we go to move a block, it's not like moving 50 voters. It's like moving 1,800 voters or moving 2,200 voters, depending on where you're at. So that's what makes it so challenging when we're trying to move the blocks around, right? Because we're trying to get equal numbers of population within the wards. So the other considerations that we used in developing our options, only one ward per precinct. So, and they must match the boundaries. So that's one of the things we have to do. We want the wards to be as compact and contiguous as possible. So that means, as close together as possible, and then making sense in how they're moving. Again, the constitutional apportionment, no more than 5% deviation between the wards with the highest population and the lowest population. We initially looked at having a portion of downtown or using the DDA boundaries as a consideration. So you'll see that in some of our options. What we did find out is that was not necessarily an important component to city council. So we've used it. We weren't asked to use it. We just did that, thinking it might be important, and found out that it's not, but we do have a couple of options that include that. We look for natural breaks when we're doing this. So we look for highways, we look for lakes and boundaries, we look for neighborhoods, and we try not to split them. Because the precincts were so big, we weren't able to pay as much attention to this as we wanted to. There were some things that we couldn't accomplish that way. And then we actually added population to the census numbers by using building permit numbers. And so we will talk a little bit more about that as well. All right, so precincts that had more than one ward, we had 12 of those. So if you look at the map and you see all the shaded, all the ones that have lines in them, those are the 12 precincts that had multiple wards within them. So when I blow this one up, and you can see it in the middle here, can you see my cursor? You actually have all 3 wards within this one precinct. All right, we can't do that. We have to give those to somebody, 1, 2, or 3 in this, or 1, 2, or 4 in this case. All right. So using the building permit data, it added 4,600 people to the census count. And these were building permits that were issued from July 2019 through June of 2022. So we did make sure that they did not, they weren't duplicative of the numbers that were already included in the census. This gives us a calculation of 2.4 people per household. And so that's how we got, we used, so per dwelling unit, we calculated another 2.4 people. And so that's how we came up with the number. And we used only properties that had already received a CO. So that we didn't use properties that had a building permit, but no CO yet. And if I blow this up, that's what this looks like. So all of those blue dots were additional items, additional people that we added to our count that were not included in the census. Okay, and we did that in every ward. All right, so we're going to jump into the options. If you'd like to follow them using your phone or using a laptop, you can do that. For the people here in person, we have those printed out for you so you can get those options in the back. But here is the website if you want to go there, and then you can follow that way. So option 1 keeps a portion of the downtown areas based on the DDA boundaries, and this gives us a deviation of only 2%, so it's well within our limit. This, I'm sorry you can't see this very well, but the orange outline right here, that is the DDA boundary, and that's what we made sure. So this is option 1 as we are proposing it. So you can see the numbers that are in each of the ward here as we look at that, the 2% max deviation. This one will have these population shifts to it. So Ward 1 would lose 924 people. Ward 2 would gain 3,236 people. Ward 3 would gain 1,227 people. And Ward 4 would lose 3,539 people in this option. All right, so I'm going to help you with this map a little bit. So this is the same map that you just saw, except with the existing ward boundaries overlaid. All right, so the heavy lines are the existing boundaries that exist in the ward. So if you look up here in this corner where the blue is, you will see the blue outline. You will see this pink area up inside the blue outline. That is where we've shifted Ward 2 up into Ward 1. Okay. And if you look over in this blue area over here where there's yellow inside the boundary, that is where Ward 4 has shifted into Ward 1. Then if you look at the blue outside of the blue highlight or the heavy line, that's where Ward 1 has creeped down into Ward 2. So this helps you see the changes between what exists and what is moving. So remember, heavy boundaries are existing boundaries. All right, so this is a close-up of Ward 1, option 1. Again, showing that Ward 2 has moved up in this place. It's grown out here a little bit, Ward 1. And then Ward 4 has come into this area over here. Okay, for Ward 2, same thing. You see where it's grown outside the boundaries in this area. You see where Ward 1 has crept in over here. Ward 3 has crept in down at the bottom, and where it has crept outside of its boundary right in this area. Ward 3, kind of the same thing, existing boundaries. You see where it's grown outside of those in these areas over here. And again, remember, this one over here is that big precinct that goes way down. So you can't split this area over here. And then you see where Ward 2 has come over into Ward 3 over in this area. And then in Ward 4, kind of the same thing. You see where Ward 3 has come up in this area. You see where Ward 3 has come over in what used to be Ward 4. All right, before we go on, any questions about those changes and what these mean? Is it making sense to you? Okay. So pros and cons of option one, it gives all wards a portion of the downtown DDA area. It provides the most contiguity. It positions things so future moves have a more natural progression to them. It moves less people to a new ward when you compare it to option two. And the con is that it's not the most balanced option, but it's very close. All right, so we're going to give you the most balanced option, and options 1 and 2 are the options that we presented at City Council. So this is the option 2. Excuse me while I move this. This actually has under a 2% deviation. It's actually 1.8% when you calculate it out. This is a 228 people difference between options 1 and 2 as far as max deviation goes. Ward 1 loses 924 people, which is the same as option 1. Ward 2 gains 3,350 people, 114 more than option 1. Ward 3 gains 1,780 people, which is 553 more than option 1. And Ward 4 loses 4,206 people, which is 667 more than option 1. So again, this is what it looks like when compared to the existing boundaries. Ward 1 looks the same, so no changes there, same changes that you saw last time. Ward 2 has some growth outside down here. Ward 3 is creeping up in here. And this no longer, so this has taken away some of the downtown area for 2 of the wards. Okay, so you'll see that. This is what it looks like for Ward 3. Again, seeing Ward 2 come down into Ward 3. Ward 4, in this case, staying down where it was before. And this is where we say it's that this option is not as contiguous because we have Ward 4 that's still hanging out down here, right? So natural progression would be that Ward 3 would start moving in this direction. Okay. And here's what Ward 4 looks like. So it is the most balanced option of all the options that we have. Council noted, though, when we were talking to them, that keeping areas of the downtown or the DDA didn't need to be a consideration, so they weren't that concerned about it. Cons could be that wards 2 and 4 do not have a portion of the downtown or DDA. It again lacks contiguity and stretches Ward 4 towards the southeast, and it doesn't represent the natural progression of growth and may require more significant changes for wards 3 and 4 in the future. All right, so options 3 and 4 were put together based on feedback that we got from the council study session. So in option 3, this will keep the old neighborhood, HP neighborhood together. So this is what this one proposes. So it's keeping this area right down here together because that was split in one of our options before. And so we do try to not split neighborhoods, even though that happens sometimes because the precincts are so big. So in this case, let me get here. All right, this has a 59 people difference between option 1 max deviation and 169 people difference from option 2. Ward 1 loses 924 people, which is the same as options 1 and 2. Ward 2 gains 3,118 people. Ward 3 gains 1,345 people, and Ward 4 loses 3,539 people. Okay, again, existing boundaries overlaid. Ward 1 looks the same, so it's not changing much. So changes in Ward 2, so you can see where this, and these neighborhoods are in Ward 3 already. So we are just keeping this neighborhood together as requested by some of the feedback that we received. And you will see how this then makes Ward 2 grow out in this direction and then a little bit down here. So it changes that up a little bit. This is what Ward 3 would look like. Again, it's moving more in the natural progression, like we hope, and kind of more contiguous, but we do have now these little kind of jut outs here, which aren't as contiguous right here with this option. We had a request too, as part of this option of keeping these neighborhoods together a little bit. And we are not able to do that because of the size of the precincts. So we were not able to keep the neighborhoods together. But what we found is that it was more important to keep the neighborhoods in here together because of the population density. And out here, there was some multifamily, and there was, just a few houses out there, but not like it was within this area. So we were not able to make that change. And then Ward 4, this is what it looks like in option 3. Pros and cons of option 3, it gives all wards a portion of the downtown DD area again. It provides good contiguity, positions things so future moves have a more natural progression. It moves less people to a new ward when compared to all of the other options. It keeps the old HP neighborhood together in the existing ward that it is in. But it's not the most balanced option. All right, and option 4 was another one that was requested through council feedback. This accounts for growth in wards and wards 1 and 4 because we know there's a lot of development activity that's occurring there right now. So this is what that map looks like. I will bring this up. So this one actually has a 4% max deviation, and that's because we've moved more people out of 1 and 4 to accommodate the growth that's going on. So we don't have to redistrict so soon again, right? So this one has a 1,532 people difference between option 1, a 1,760 people difference between option 2, a 1,591 people difference between option 3. Ward 1 loses 924 people, which is the same as all the other options. Ward 2 gains 3,350 people. Ward 3 gains 3,585 people. And Ward 4 loses 6,011 people. All right. So again, this is what option 4 looks like when we overlay the existing boundaries to that. Ward 1 is the same. Ward 2, you can see the differences here. Now we've kept the old HB neighborhood together in this one, but it moves to a different ward in this option. And this is Ward 3. So you can see how it grows out over in this direction. And then Ward 4. So you see the purple that has come up. Ward 3 has come up into these areas. So pros and cons of option 4, it takes into account the growth that will occur in wards 1 and 4 due to the development activity. It helps reduce the need to redistrict as early as we might need to otherwise. It has, as a con, a highest deviation among all the wards. So it's a 4% deviation, which will correct itself in time as we get more population in those areas, right? But it moves the highest number of people to a new ward. So let me see, it moves 22,208 people to a new ward. So it's about a 27% disruption rate for people. So this is the highest number of people that would be moving, would be option 4. Okay, so with that, we are going to move to some breakout sessions. We have for you on virtual, you will have a moderator that will be helping you through these items. And so we have scheduled until about 7:15 to do this. I'm not sure that it's going to take us so long because I don't think that we have that many participants as we thought. So once you guys are done, we will call the meeting back together. But until then, we will go ahead and do our breakout work right now. Let's see.
Logan, are you ready to go?
We sure are, whenever you're ready.
Okay, very good. So let's see, and they are sharing. Can we get that sharing turned off on their end? Very good. I think I have the wrong share. Get the PowerPoint started here really quickly, and we'll be on our way. Okay. Okay, everybody, welcome to our town hall where we'll be discussing redistricting as our part of our breakout session. Welcome. We're really excited to provide you this opportunity to review the options potentially in more detail and provide us comments on your how you feel about these set and ask us questions. And from here, we have the 4 options queued up for you. We'll actually be able to demonstrate those live to you in a few minutes. With that time, we want to take about 10 minutes to review each option potentially. Obviously, that will depend upon the number of comments we get during each of the reviews. But there will be options for you to provide that feedback, and we're really excited to hear what you have to say about that. Let's see. Please know that if you prefer, you don't necessarily have to provide your feedback during this session. You can provide your feedback as the city provides a web-based platform on, that's available at the city's website, lovegov.org. And you would just go to lovegov.org/redistricting or search for redistricting on our website. On those pages, you will have opportunities to provide feedback, and that would be for the next number of days, I believe, through the 15th of this month. But we do want to get, one of the things to remember, we do want to get your preferred option as we move forward here. So keep in mind as you're reviewing the options, which one would be the option you would choose if you were to look at the 4. So please be thinking about that as we have this discussion. Our ground rules for today are, there we go. Remain muted unless you're speaking. That will keep any distractions down and such. Conversation is expected, but we do want everyone to be respectful and make sure that our conversations are appropriate and such. Please share your feedback as well via the online chat that is available as a part of the Zoom session. We will have other staff members from the clerk's office listening and recording this. This is being recorded, but they also are recording and taking down your comments and such so that we can provide those back as summation potentially at the end of this session to those in the room where they're meeting live to communicate or to participate in the discussion. Would ask you to press the raise your hand button that's available in the Zoom session, or if you're connecting by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand and then *6 to unmute. We do have a facilitator or moderator for the session this evening, and they are here to assist as we move forward. Okay. Stop that share and let's see, I will share our items here. Okay, we will start with option 1. As a part of this, Let me get to my notes because I wanted to be able to provide you with information on the pros and cons for this again, if you're interested. This is option one. This is presented to council. This is one of the two options that were presented. This includes a portion of the downtown being in all wards. And based upon council feedback, that's not necessarily a crucial element. It has a 2% deviation. And information in this scenario is that want to provide to you is one of the things that we've concerned ourselves with is how disruptive are each of these options. And in this case, this option moves a little less than 16,000 residents, between wards as a part of the redistricting. Pros on this: it gives all wards a portion of downtown, provides the most contiguity, positions things so the future we have a more natural progression as we've projected the city to grow, and moves less people to a new ward. The cons is it's not the most balanced option. With that, I think we can move on and open this up to comments. Logan?
Perfect. Thanks, Dan. All right, so speakers who wish to comment, please use the raise your hand feature under the reactions tab in the Zoom app. If you're calling in, you can press *9 to raise your hand and then *6 to unmute. So when it's your turn to speak, you'll receive a notification that the host has asked you to unmute. And at that time, please unmute yourself, provide your name and city of residence, and begin your comment. All right, so let's begin here.
One thing to note is that there's a limit on the data that we have available in this session. I do see some comments on the impacts of the DDA. That was demonstrated in the maps that Delyn showed. They are not available in the mapping that we have here. However, we are keeping track of all your questions and would specifically want to get back to you on that and provide that information and, as a follow-up.
Casey Mullins, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to speak yet, but I'm unmuted at this
I
point.
think you're unmuted, Casey.
All right, thank you. And thanks for what y'all are doing. From listening to and watching the presentation, I'm wondering if there's going to be any way to compare option 1 and 3, since those had the least deviation in them.
Certainly, as you can get online, and the maps I'm showing you right now are actually available online. So this is what's available to the public today as we speak, and has been available to the public. And as you might see, there's opportunities to leave comments on the maps. Certainly anyone can, if you're interested in a certain part of town or a certain neighborhood, someone could get on here and look at the different options and see, specifically if there's a location that you're interested in, how it compares between 1 and 3 or 2 and 3 or 3 and 4. Did have a question online as well that I want to make sure, or on the chat that I wanted to make sure I'm trying to get to, is by balanced, are we speaking about the populations now or where anticipated populations are? Right now, it's what the charter requires is that it's most equally apportioned right now. So the balanced is how closely the estimated populations of between each ward, how close they are. And so we want to get that deviation of like the highest population in one ward to the lowest population in any other ward to be less than, a certain amount, or is as small as possible. So it is current population. However, if you will, like I believe it's option 4 is where we looked at the opportunity to project, and the projection of population growth in the city of Loveland is actually projected to in the near future to happen mostly in wards 1 and 4. So with that, there was an opportunity to say, how would we prepare and maybe start out with in the wards that we approve now to have them be a little lesser so they could grow, and not require a redistricting in the near time frame. Other questions? And let's see, the general area of the downtown is in this area, in this kind of region here. I believe the DDA, or my cursor is going around.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. Okay. One question I have in this project, and was particularly obvious in option 4, was the projected growth considerations.
Yes.
It was not clear to me if they were saying projected growth within what is currently the city of Loveland, or projected low growth in areas which we think might become a part of the city of Loveland.
I don't know that I know that specifically, but we worked with our development services group and got information from them based upon where they believe projected growth would occur. Whether that, I think primarily it's within the city's growth management boundary, where there is a projection of the city limits to potentially grow.
Thank you.
There was a question on the difference in the boundaries, and could we provide it? We are not prepared to provide, any more overlays, with the actual mapping right at this time. But certainly there is other opportunities. The city clerk's office is graciously offered, if someone is really interested in discussing this more, actually maybe even sitting down with someone and going through this, as well as my GIS manager that was helped to create these maps and whatnot. We would be happy to sit down and see how we might be able to meet those questions. Potentially even like, someone coming in and sitting down, in front of a screen and walking through and overlaying some of these data sets like 1 and 3 and 1 and 4 to see how the DDA would fit within each of those and what the changes would be.
Dan, and I might have another solution to that as well.
Okay.
In the left-hand column there's a link that says compare option 1 with options
Look at
3 and
that.
4.
Oh, I love it. I didn't.
And this is kind of a swipe and compare. So if you scroll down the page a bit, you'll see those options to compare options 1 versus 2, 3, 4, so on.
Thank you for that, for letting me know. This is where we can draw the line between, and you can start to see between 1 and 3 where the changes are. Does that make sense for people? And also this is available for all persons on our website tonight. And we could switch down to, let's go back. Oh, wait a second. Now it's, sorry that switched on us, and we create another one for 1 and 4. And as that comes up, there we go. Taking a little bit of extra time to render. That one's a bit slower. So as you can see on the one side, and then how it changes as you draw it across. The main difference in this case is that area right there. And let's see, as we move over here, you start to see that HP neighborhood gets split between option, this being option 1, I believe. And this is option 1 to the left, option 4 to the right. And you see where option 4 brings in and actually puts those HP neighborhoods, what started out as 3 and moving into Ward 2. So does that help?
Cool.
There is a question on that someone has asked. So the ward changes are based on population, not voter registration. That is absolutely true. That is part of the city's charter, that the ward boundaries are based upon most equal amount of population within the wards, not voter registration. Okay, do we want to move on to option 2?
I'm not sure, Kevin, if you were able to share your comment.
Yeah, my question first, thanks for outlining the DDA boundary with the cursor and showing us the comparison options between those. That's both really helpful. The other question I had is regarding the future growth. Are there any maps or indications that we can see where the growth is expected to occur? I know you've told us 1 and 4 are the ones that are going to grow based on existing boundaries, but how do some of these options compare to future growth models?
That's one thing I'm very sure we do not have tonight is any of the future growth models. And we would have to speak with our development services if that's something they have published that would be available. But like I said, we are having people keeping track. We are recording this. We are keeping track of questions and comments. And we'll certainly put that into the record and see about providing that information as a part of the discussion.
Thank you.
You bet. Happy to do that. All right, let's see about moving on to option 4. And let's see, I'm gonna have to move that down, or option 2, I'm sorry. All right, looking at option 2, and this is the one, let me get my, bring up my pros and cons here for you. Option 2, this is the one, this is one of the ones that was presented to council. It is the most balanced option, only having about a 1.8% deviation. It does move a few more people in this, which we would have almost 22,000 residences impacted by a change of ward. Pros and cons, it is the most balanced option, being only at 1.8%. Council noted that keeping the downtown or the DTA areas in all wards was not of particular consideration or concern to them. So that in this case, that was something of a restriction lifted that we made sure of using to use in the options 3 and 4. Wards 2 and 4 in this case will not have a portion of the downtown DDA. It does lack some contiguity and stretches around Ward 4 down towards the southeast. And if you'll notice, the one precinct, the large precinct that Delynn noted in her discussion was one of those in Ward 4. The challenge in that case is that it involves a lot of retail and commercial properties and such, with not a lot of population. So in that case, that one precinct is a very large geographic space. As well, this one doesn't this one as a con does not represent the natural progression of the growth, because, as we move, as more growth happens in Ward 4 across, and this is one where we know it's happening, and you can see the growth happening across Highway 34 and toward, by the Centerra area. So let's take a look at, let's open this up for comments. Logan?
Thanks, Dan. So anyone that wishes to comment, if you wouldn't mind choosing that raise your hand feature now, we can go ahead and get your feedback. Not seeing any hands raised at the moment. So, oh, looks like we have one. I'll go ahead and let you speak here. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, I will, while we're doing that, I will note there was a question on how many wards are currently in the downtown or the DD area. I believe actually there's at least 3, if not 4, that have some portion of what is a fairly larger downtown area. It's it runs north to south, but it does encapsulate I believe at least 3 of the wards now. It sounds like that consideration on the DDA boundary is something that should be provided in the data as we move forward. So we will make that note.
And I can actually add that. We have that data available, so I can add that on into this mapping here. So we can add that after the meeting today. So
very good. Yeah.
Go ahead and give you permission to speak. Give me 1 second, Kevin.
Yeah, so my question here is that we're moving pretty much all of the downtown into Ward 3. And I asked this in the main Q&A for the main session, but just wondering what are kind of the up or downsides to downtown being all in one ward? Does that have any, I realize there could be political ramifications, but just on the logistics side, is there something or anything relating to, city operation or representation where the downtown has to align with Ward 3 and the others somehow don't speak up for it, or vice versa? Or how does this happen with everybody not in one, with it just in one ward, or that's spread?
With it in just wards. So the DDA obviously is a particular aspect of our community, a very important aspect. I will take my cues from the council, during the work session. They weren't necessarily concerned that it would fall within one or two wards. Actually, we have scenarios where significant or important parts of our community fall within a single ward. And I believe a comment I heard from our council is that, they represent a ward. They actually are, they represent the whole community. I don't believe that there's anything any real issues with it falling within one ward as far as how it's managed or representation necessarily. So, but that is something that we can certainly should be discussed, and we will have to get that out there. But I'm personally unaware of any real issues with that. One of the things you will note in this scenario, one of the restrictions or limitations we have on moving some of the precincts is that you can't create a vacancy for any council member, right? Or within any ward. So we did have to take in consideration where our current council members actually reside. In this case, what you'll see here, this area around Lake Loveland, we do have a council member that lives just to the west of Lake Loveland. Because of that really anchors this, this area here, this precinct, where it must fall within Ward 1. It can't be moved, because if we put it in, say, Ward 3 or even maybe more logically in Ward 2, it would create a vacancy for Ward 1, which is something that cannot be done statutorily. So that limitation does, and you can even see it in this option, is it requires Ward 1 to come down into this area and remain in Ward 1. That could potentially have this impact of, where we are as far as this down, not necessarily the downtown area, but other scenarios where we can't move. And Delynn, when she showed maps, did show where all the council members actually reside and how that locked or preempted the move of the district. So in those cases, that's something to consider as well, and it demonstrates very openly, right, in this option.
Great, I'll go ahead and let the other person speak here. Give me one second.
This is Mary. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mary.
Okay. I live south of Lake Loveland, but all the way down at 5th in Colorado. And I see our neighborhood as a very naturally cohesive neighborhood that goes from 287 west over to Taft, and at least from the south end to First up to Eisenhower in kind of a square, except for some natural areas and things that are considered. So it seems like the different options shuffle that neighborhood around quite a bit. So when I look at option 1, it looks pretty much intact except between 1st and 4th Street. And it would go as far, let's see, I think we might lose some area after Franklin, south of 1st Street and west of Franklin, but that keeps most of the area intact. When I look at option 2, which is about as far as I've gotten right now, that looks like we're totally moved toward 3, and the nature of our district changes pretty drastically from what I can tell, which, may or may not be, what has to happen. But I'm so far, having just looked at the first 2 options, I would personally really prefer to stick with number 1, but that's my personal opinion. And I guess I have questions about how much our neighborhood would change as you look at 3 and 4, because I haven't had a chance to see those yet.
Okay, well, we'll be showing those in just a minute. And I think that's one of those, one of the things that we have to consider is that we are limited by the precincts that the county created. So like in this case where I talked about this precinct coming down in here, and that looks like it might even split part of the neighborhood that you were speaking of, that this has to be in one, and it splits here, which, I believe actually in some ways might split a neighborhood, but there really is we have no choice because we have to abide by the county precincts. So that's just one of those limitations, as well as, and it's complicated by the council member that exists in this. So there was really no opportunity to keep this neighborhood together across this line. Very good.
And I guess if you can still hear me, I don't know if you want me to just add a quick comment to that.
Sure.
So I guess I'm less concerned about that little strip from Eisenhower South to 10th.
Okay.
I think I can see where there's some business in there and it's less of a neighborhood. But I think once you get as far south as 10th, trying to keep that together down to 1st Street, I would really like to see that happen. And then from east to west, from 287 over to Taft, that kind of a square really feels like our neighborhood, and there's a lot of cohesiveness there. So that would be my hope, that even if we have to switch wards, that we can keep that square together if possible.
All righty, great. Thank you for your input.
Thank you.
Logan, do we have anyone else?
Looks like that's all I see for now. But before we do move on to the next option, I wanted to just kind of quickly get your feedback on some of your initial thoughts and feelings on this option. So we do have a quick poll that we would love for you to answer for us. That should be showing up on your screen shortly. Really, that's all that's going to ask is if you like this option, if you can live with that option, or if you don't like that option and truly can't live with it. This just gives us more information, kind of just a better idea of kind of your initial sentiments towards this option.
I apologize, Logan, if I skipped over your opportunity for collect feedback on option 1. Is it possible to go back on that one?
You bet. No worries. I definitely skipped over that as well. So
Okay.
we'll have an opportunity to do that too. Thank you.
Very good. Yeah, let's just follow this up with feedback on option 1.
All right, it looks like we've got most people have answered the poll. I'm going to go ahead and close it unless anyone has. Looks like we're still getting a couple answers. Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and close it, and we'll. Looks like Dan already switched back to option 1, and we'll go ahead and open that poll as well. Should see that on your screen right now. You all are fast. Moving through this quickly.
Good.
Awesome. It looks like we've gotten everyone.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and end the poll for that one, and we should be ready to move on to option 3. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Logan. Okay, option 3. Excuse me. This is one of the options that was developed after we got feedback from council. This keeps the old HP neighborhood together as the comments that we received as a part of that. It has a 2% deviation between the highest and lowest ward. And this one, in this case, actually only moves or impacts around 13,000 of our residents. So that's kind of a positive for this one. Pros this gives all the wards a portion of downtown. So if that's of concern or interest, that this one accomplishes that. Provides good contiguity. And it positions things so the future we have more natural growth progression with the city, within the city and the wards in relationship to that growth. Moves less people to new and from wards, like I mentioned. Keeps the HP neighborhood together. It's not the most balanced option, but it's really very close. And so with that, Logan, I think we can open it up for comments, questions.
Sounds good. Thank you, Dan. All right. If there's anyone that would like to ask questions or provide feedback on this option, go ahead and raise your hand now, and we'll get you tuned in here.
Oh, we did have someone ask, what does HP stand for? And well, if you're near town, that's the Hewlett-Packard plant that is just to the east of those properties. Or the neighborhoods that we're speaking of.
Thanks, Dan. All right, we've got someone queued up here.
Casey Mullins, and I just wanted to say that to me, since this has the least amount of deviation and the least amount of affected voters, this seems like the most logical one to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's, if that's could certainly be of value, and that's actually why we calculated that number, so that when council and when we're presenting it to the community, you would have an understanding of how disruptive the different options would be. And the disruption really is after this, someone might move from being represented by a Ward 2 council member to a Ward 3 council member.
That could change. The council members could change.
The council members wouldn't change.
Okay, thank you.
But the ward where the voter or where the resident is resides, which ward they were in. So you could move from Ward 2 to Ward 3. Not physically move, but the ward would change underneath the property.
To talk to them. I use this.
Okay. Thanks, Casey.
Wonderful. Is there anyone else that would like to provide feedback or ask questions? Alrighty, I'll go ahead and open the poll for this one. If you wouldn't mind letting us know your initial thoughts and feedback for option 3. That should be appearing on your screen now.
There was a question on Dave asked about this model taking into account the future growth. I believe it does. It makes it positions the wards to be more naturally aligned with the growth. Like in some of the others where you'll see Ward 4 stretch down into this area, this makes it more of a quadrant based or closer to as we move forward, and does position into that natural progression a little bit more than a few of the other options. Thanks, Dave, for the question.
And I think that's also one of the pros of option 4. So there's a little sneak peek there, but I'll go ahead. It looks like we've got most people answered the poll, so I'll go ahead and close that now unless there are any last folks that want to contribute. Alrighty, I'll go ahead and close that. And with that, I think you're good to move on, Dan.
Thank you very much, Logan. Okay, here we go. The option 4, just a little review on this. This is one of the new options again, after our study session with council. This one absolutely does anticipate growth in wards 1 and 4 by reducing the population numbers that are encompassed by wards 1 and 4. So allowing them to grow a little bit more without having to redistrict. But it does have a 4% deviation, but it is projected that deviation as population, it would actually lessen over time potentially. It is a little more disruptive. It moves 22,000 residents as a part of this. So the pros takes into account the growth that we anticipate in wards 1 and 4, and helps reduce the need or the potential to redistrict as early as we might otherwise have to. The cons, highest deviation amongst the wards at 4%, and it does have the highest number of people being impacted by the change of wards, which at a 27% change rate. With that, we can open up for questions, Logan.
Thanks, Dan.
You bet.
Alrighty, so looks like we've got one already. I'll go ahead and let you speak here. Give me 1 second.
So since this option is the one that moves the most number of people, and creates the highest deviation between the ward, that's in the context of taking into account the growth, and without having exact maps of where that growth is going to be. Can you confirm that? I believe in the initial presentation before we broke out into the groups, they're saying that this deviation is going to be 4%, but it's going to naturally shrink because of future growth. So we're actually going to have a closer deviation in years to come.
Right. So as you
with
see
the
growth,
adoption.
yeah, absolutely. I apologize. Go ahead.
No, it's good. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir. So in that, what this one accomplishes is it puts the lesser amount of population in wards 1 and 4, where we anticipate the growth to occur. So in these areas across I-25, where you'll be seeing, you know, we're seeing development over there. You're seeing multifamilies, units being developed, homes and such. So you're going to see more growth in this area over here. Up in the northwest part of Ward 1, there are some developments occurring. There's potential for developments to occur up into the northwest of Ward 1, where we would see population coming to these wards. So what this one does is it somewhat anticipates that growth occurring, and it is, you know, on the nearer horizon. So those numbers would be added, you know, the population would be added to these wards, which would reduce the deviation between the other wards, right? So it would create this opportunity for this option to have a bit more longevity.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna, I guess, ask, is that what you just said, that there's more people moving between wards with this option right now, and it offers the best chance of not moving people as much in the future. So my follow-on question to that is, just with demographics, are there any of these 4 redistricting options which the city thinks, or council or development team thinks, will result in a more than 5% deviation in less than 6 years, since that 6 years is the threshold that they're not supposed to redistrict if you can help it?
Boy, that gets into that crystal ball scenarios, right? Where we wish you knew. And that's why you see the lower, with the other options that didn't necessarily take this into account as well, that the deviation is as low as it is. Like at 1.8%, which I was really amazed that they were actually able to get that number that low, given the size of the, you know, the building blocks. So in that case, you're starting with a pretty low deviation. They're actually pretty close. So a lot depends on where, you know, you end up with population growth and such. I can't say, I don't know that the analysis was done, you know, to that scale where we would have that type of answer for you at this point. But we certainly will have captured that, and maybe that's information that the team, along with our development services group, could put together for future consideration or future input for the process. They're really good questions.
Yeah, thank you. I think that more than having a definitive answer with the crystal ball, it's more of a, you know, there's a 50% chance or a 10% chance. How likely are we to put ourselves in a bind is, I guess, and just is it a big gamble, or is this, you know, it would be, a very small risk that you'd run into that with any of the options?
Yeah, I love the concept, and I believe we'll capture that and see what the opportunities are to have that be a consideration for each of the options. Very good. Thank you so much. All right, Logan, do we have any other questions? Anybody online that would, anything else you'd like to see or comment?
Looks like we have one other person.
We are getting close to our timeline where we're supposed to come back to the larger meeting by 7:15. So I think we've done really well.
I think we can extend it a little bit if we need to.
Okay, great.
We've got a little time, so.
Perfect.
So I wanted to add on to Kevin's question, because I know this is kind of, they're having to kind of use a crystal ball for this. And yet, you know, I look at some of these changes, especially in Ward 1, where the population is anticipated to change. Those subdivisions, other than one small one, have not gone through council yet. So I'm wondering, you know, I know there's a lot of plans out by the Ward 4 in the Centera area. But the Ward 1 anticipation, I just wish we had more information on where the numbers, the crystal ball numbers are. Came from to determine, future growth type stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say that the team putting these options together and such has worked with our development services group. And should, I believe took that into consideration. But as we mentioned earlier, if there's opportunity to provide, to have more of that projection information available, that would be great. Yeah, really good comment. Current development there in the chat. If you're not following there, there is information available. There's actually a link available that demonstrates where our current development activity is occurring in the community. So you can get on there and see that and see where building permits are being issued and such, and construction is occurring around our community. All right. Other questions?
Not seeing any other hands, so I'll go ahead and open that poll for option 4 here. Give me 1 second.
Great, thanks, Logan.
All right, you should see that on your screen right now. Hey, Ann, I'm seeing your comment in the chat here. That link would be lovegov, lovegov.org/CDA, current development activity. I believe I sent that to everyone, but I will need to double check to make sure that shows up. But that's the link as well. It's on our website, so you should be able to search for it too. But it's just lovegov.org/CDA.
Oh, and did let me know that our participants are not seeing, or attendees are not seeing the chat. So I apologize for referencing that in the, but thank you, Logan, for getting that link out there for them. Well, group, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to participate in local government and these kind of discussions. Your feedback, it's just great to get that helps staff put together a more comprehensive response and solutions for our community. As a reminder, we do want to make sure that you know that you can continue to provide feedback on these options and maybe even others as they're developed. And please know if any of you are interested in trying to take the numbers and the data that we have and create an option, we would love to be able to provide that information to you. Maybe you come up with something. Actually, in Fort Collins that went through a redistricting recently, they actually went with a citizen-initiated option, which is really cool. So, but you can also provide your feedback on the Let's Talk Loveland site available from our city's website. And it's now time to return to the group for some closing information. I hope you stick around afterward and in the webinar. And I think, have we got one last poll, Logan, on the that you had for like the overall? Or is that's our last poll?
Yeah, I think we'll all regroup back with the folks in the Chilson, and then we'll open that final poll for you to let us know your preferred option towards the end. So stick around for that. I'll let the team know that we're ready, and so they can meet us back.
Great. Thanks so much, Logan.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
I need Dan to unshare his screen. There we go. All right, let's see if I can get back to our item here. All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for all of your participation and all of your help with this tonight. We'll just do a little bit of a report out now. So let me see if I can get us moved to that. We'll talk about this map in a little bit as well. So some of the comments that I received from the virtual session is that people seemed a little bit concerned about keeping cohesiveness with their neighborhood and keeping the neighborhood together. People had questions about DDA and whether it needed to be in all options in all wards. There were questions about current population versus future population and how you might find that information. And I know that you guys on a virtual meeting had received some information about development activity that you can get on the city's website. So please feel free to go out there because you can get existing and future developments that have been approved or are coming. So I'd encourage you to look at that information. Talked about option 4 and the speculation on the shrinking deviation. So that was all part of that question. And so you can do there. And that looks like what I have. So thank you so much for all of the information that you provided. In here, we had a lot of interest in option 1 and option 3. And actually the thing driving the interest there was that the DDA boundaries were included in all wards. We did not have much interest in option 4. And I think that is because of the number of people that would be moved. So such a high disruption rate. And then there were some concerns that I saw about Ward 2 losing people. So I saw those out there. The consensus on the overall vote here where there were votes for option 1. So that's what we have here. And I'm waiting to hear back from the virtual to see if you guys have your final vote in yet. And I don't see that one yet. So we'll go ahead and continue to talk. So what you see on the screen right now is actually a template map that you can use to create your own option. So what you see on here, the highlighted areas, so the ones that are in blue and the ones that are in red and purple, those show precincts that have to stay because that's where your council members are. So these maps give you the ones that have to stay. It also gives you the population numbers that are included in each one. So if you can come up with another option that makes sense and that meet all of the considerations that we've talked about tonight, including keeping your council members in their districts, including keeping things as compact and contiguous as possible, paying attention to the boundaries that we've talked about, and making sure that you match the county precincts. So all of those things have to be considered. We would welcome any additional options that you might have. So use these maps. You can color them in, bring them by the city, and we're happy to sit down and talk to you about the options and tell you whether, just confirm whether or not they would work. And then our plan is to take all of the options that we get to council so that they can kind of consider what people have come up with. So next steps, we have a boards and commissions super issue meeting scheduled for, sorry for the typo, it has moved to January 26th. So it will actually be on a Thursday. So we have that coming. And then we will be doing first and second, actually we've got a study session that's coming to council on February 14th. So that will be our next session with city council where we will be presenting all of these 4 options and any other options that are developed by all of you, and to see which ones they want us to bring back for first and second readings. And then we're going to try to have first and second readings in February. Maybe have to move to the first part of March for second reading. So with that, once that's done and we have an option approved, then that information will go to the county and then it will update all of the information in the voter registration system, which is SCORE. And then we will be set so people can start even their candidate pursuits, if people want to get started with that. So we will be ready. And I have a poll in the middle of my computer here. All right, with that, that's all I have. If you have any questions for us, please feel free to give us a call. You can email us. You can go to the Let's Talk Loveland site. Please utilize that and give us as much feedback as you want, or we're happy to walk through questions, happy to meet with you in person. And I don't have it. Go ahead, Nicole. Final deadline for feedback is the question, when is it? And we will give you through the end of January is when we need that. Because I want to be able to put that in the information that I give to council for February 14th. So January 31st will be your deadline for getting us information. All right. So with that, I just want to say thank you again for your participation and for being with us tonight. We really appreciate it. Your feedback really matters, especially in something like this. So thank you again, and we look forward to hearing more from you in the future. Good night, City of Loveland.
Well done.